What's up, everybody? My name is Mark, and this is the Neon Arrival YouTube channel. I'm the singer and songwriter in this music project, Neon Arrival, but that's not why we're here today. We are here to start a video series where we're going to discuss the merits of my all-time favorite band, Kiss. Why is Kiss important to me? I don't have a script for this. I'm going to riff off the top of my head, but growing up in the 80s and early 90s, I was not into music much. It wasn't really around in my house. But somewhere around the age of 12, 13, I got two things. I got a cassette tape, a mixtape of Kiss songs. And then shortly thereafter, I got the greatest hits of Kiss. One of my first CDs. There's something about the whole presentation, the blood on Gene's face and the makeup and the explosions and the lights. But I really remember the catchiness of the songs. Rock and Roll All Night, somehow I knew that song before I knew it was even Kiss. Obviously, is their standout classic. But even just listening to that tape, it had New York Groove on it, which I would later learn more about. Christine 16 and God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Again, another cover, but that song blew me away when I was about 12 years old. And it really made me want to be a rock star. We can get more granular and specific as to like each of the members and each of the albums and what makes them so iconic and meaningful. But Kiss is like, I make a case that Kiss is the best rock band of all time. And specifically what I mean by that is my definition of what a rock band should be. A huge show, lots of showmanship. Some mystique, some intrigue, showman, big, loud, rock. But even in their early songs, you can really appreciate how hard they rock, but also they create space in their songs, and they make hooks. If I talk about songwriting or my music, I always say you need hooks. A hook. What's the hook? Multiple hooks. So they're accessible, immediately accessible, this kind of comic book of bands or the Star Wars of bands. They come in and they're larger than life. And Star Wars might not be the best movie ever made, but it's my favorite movie ever made, right? And non-Star Wars fans can still like a Star Wars movie. And Kiss is like that too. There's actually a lot there. And I think a lot of people just hear Gene and Paul talk about business and money and blah, blah, blah. And never-ending reunion tours. And you can talk about all that stuff. But if you actually dig a little deeper through the different lineups of the band, the different eras and the different voices, the different genres, they cover a lot of ground. And their willingness to experiment and try things, I find so satisfying, even when it doesn't work, because simultaneously you could say that they're looking for financial success by doing what's trendy, but also you can see that Kiss is co-evolving with the world around it. And what is Kiss? It's more of a vehicle. The music is more of a vehicle for this Kiss phenomenon. So you might have different inroads into this thing. And that's what has made Kiss what it is. A song like Beth or a song like Detroit Rock City, or, pick your favorite songs from the 80s. Shandy, not my favorite Kiss song, but that brings in a lot of people. Paul Stanley, I've dressed as him twice for Halloween. I've done two different groups of Kiss Halloween costumes. The quintessential frontman. Totally rock and roll. The way he sings, kind of out of control, a little bit harsh, a little bit technically maybe not the best way to sing for your vocal cords, but it's got this tone and this punch and this raspiness and grit. There's several layers to that voice. And the way he gets the crowd riled up and the effeminate dance moves and the extra, like, I can relate to that as a small child, as a boy, seeing a man be really extra and really confident. Like, man, he can sing too. And it was, I want to be a front man like Paul Stanley. Gene, totally underrated as a songwriter and a bass player. He understands the Kiss vehicle, and I think he's partially to blame for why people talk crap about Kiss, is because when he talks about Kiss, he poo-poos the music. He doesn't really like talking about the songs. But if you hear Gene in other podcasts or interviews talk about music, he is adept and well-versed in lots of music. He knows a lot about music and songwriting. And I wish he would lean into that a little bit more. He's got some great songs, and its own unique, strong voice as well, which has held up pretty well. And then you got Ace. Rest in peace, Ace. That's part of the reason why I'm here today. Ace passed away about a week ago, and I would say that it's kind of hit me in stages and phases. Someone I never knew, but up until as recently as last year, his solo album, 10,000 Volts, was a great album. Loved it. Totally my vibe. The things he did with guitar and showmanship and explosions and smoke and sparklers and spinning, the whole display, and then the guitar writing, the solos that tell a story, that are like a song within a song. And I think what non-Kiss people don't get about why Kiss is so cool is, on one hand, their songs are learnable. They make sense. They're catchy, accessible songs that you can try to learn on guitar. And even Ace's parts, they're not so crazy that you're like, I'll never be able to do that. You think, I could sit down, I think I could learn this if I practice. So this accessibility musically makes them super compelling, but then at the same time, the inaccessibility of how larger than life they were makes this like dream of like, oh, I could maybe write a song that good. And they were on this massive scale. Look at what they've done. So it almost makes you feel like you can do that. You put on the right makeup, you write the right song, you do the right show. You could be a rock star. So we're going to dive into Kiss's album discography. And we're going to start with the album that started it all, Kiss, the self-titled album. And it absolutely should be the self-titled album. Sometimes bands kind of find their sound a little bit later, but the staples that they would continue to play for almost 50 years, are all on here. Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, the only Ace song on the solo album that Gene sang, which is funny because he's a teetotaler. Black Diamond is kind of this hidden gem of this era of Kiss. Everybody knows the big handful of songs, but Black Diamond never quite was as culturally it was never quite as culturally known or like widely known as some of the other songs like Deuce. But a great song. It's their response to Brown Sugar. It's Black Diamond, which is fun, but also it's got some feel to it. Some of the live performances of that song when they were like, just establishing themselves, so exciting. You can feel the energy of those four people together. Absolutely love Black Diamond. Get up, get your grandma out of here. That line from Gene is so stupid and hilarious and totally awesome. And it's something my daughter sings all the time. Get up and get your grandma out of here. It's the type of thing that I would want to write in a song that's fun and stupid and memorable that maybe doesn't mean that much, but makes people go, "What the heck is this?" And maybe that's Gene saying, "This isn't your grandma's band. We're something new. We're something scary. I'm the demon. I'm gonna chew blood." Um, Something I didn't know until later, discovering Kiss and kind of rediscovering and going back through the backlog of albums, was learning that their first few songs or their first few albums were not hits at all. Um, I didn't know how rapidly they pumped out the albums, and that Alive, or their first live album, really combined the elements of all three of those first albums. It's really a cohesive chapter and unit, the first three albums, and then culminating in Alive. Um, it's really clearly a chapter of history, and in many ways, it's absolutely what made them what they were. If that's all they made, they would be worthy of exploring, and maybe it would be a little bit more of a cult instead of the massive following that they have. Um, but you can listen to their debut album from front to back. Kissing Time, I don't need it. I think there are some versions of the album that didn't have that cover, but I can see why, for a promotional cover, like, hey, you should have a song about kissing because you're Kiss, and we can use that about when you guys go on tour. You can read about that kind of backstage stuff. By the way, this is all off the top of my head, so if I say something wrong, um, the iconic look of Kiss, the makeup. Now it's cliche and trite, but it wasn't then. And the character design that each of these guys made, it's so fitting of each of their personalities. Um, Kiss, first album,